Welcome back to 7 at 4. It is rare that we hear from female veterans and their time in the service. As a matter of fact, when it comes to hometown veterans honoring our heroes, I think over the past couple years, we've only heard from a few. So when I heard of a United States Army veteran, Beverly Ledford, I knew I wanted to hear more about her story. Joining me now in studio to talk more about her story is Beverly Ledford. Beverly, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So you served in the United States Army.
I did.
Desert Storm, Desert Shield. Thank you for your service to our country.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Before we get started with your time in service, I want to talk a little bit about where you're from and how you grew up and why join the military, because that's always an interesting question.
Thank you. I grew up in upstate New York. I was born and raised in upstate New York. Graduated high school. The reason for joining the military, my grandmother had passed. She was the glue that held the family together. And everybody was just so sad when my grandmother left this earth that I was actually enrolled in community college. I quit college, went to the Air Force recruiter, didn't hear what I wanted to hear there, then went to the Army recruiter, and I signed up. And it was in September, and so I actually signed my papers the day before my 18th birthday.
Wow.
Mom and Dad were in awe because I was their little princess that they didn't think would ever join the military. So I did.
Tell me more about your job when you went in, your MOS, and what your time looked like in the military.
Okay, I spent nearly 13 years. I started out as a military police.
Wow.
At the age of 18 and deployed overseas to Germany right after basic and AIT. And I also gained some experience as a clerk typist as well as personnel clerk while I was in. So I had some secondary MOSs as well, some secondary jobs. I am a Desert Storm vet. I deployed. My children were only 2 and 4.
Wow, when you deployed.
When I deployed.
What was that like for you as a mom and as a woman?
It was tough. And again, one of the reasons I got out a little later after Desert Storm, my ex-husband was abusive as well. So I went through that transition of, I was actually in the middle of my divorce when I deployed. So again, making it that much harder. My ex-husband, we were still married at the time, he also deployed.
Okay, so he was also military.
Yes.
And you were being abused while in the military.
I was out there arresting people for the same thing I was going through behind my own closed doors. And if it wasn't for my oldest son at almost 5 years old saying, "My daddy makes my mommy cry," did I decide to make that, because I didn't want my children, they're both boys, to grow up to think that it was okay.
Sure.
So, so that was the reason for making the next step or the transition into civilian life.
And you're a survivor, Beverly.
I am.
Not just a military veteran. And I love what you told me just in our personal conversation. Melissa, I operated not as a victim. I operated with the mind frame of a survivor.
Yes.
So when you decided to get out of the military after 13 years active duty, what was the transition like to civilian life, and what were you doing, and what are you up to today, Beverly?
Okay, so I was actually only unemployed for 2 weeks after I got out of the military.
Of course.
And I landed a government contract job, which I did for probably about a year on and off. It was some temporary contract work. And then I landed a GS4 office automation clerk with Department of the Army. And from there, so again, I started my civilian government career beyond the military. And so from there, I moved from that position to a secretary position and then into human resources. And I started as a human resources assistant, and I ended up retiring the day before my 57th birthday.
Wow.
As the director of human resources for the Animal Plant and Health Inspection Service, USDA. So some of the coaching and mentoring I've done through the years is never be afraid to learn something new. And whatever tools you've learned back here, put them in your toolbox, pick it up and take it with you.
Yeah.
So that was the motto I lived by. I did not have a plan when I started, but it came together, and I was able to retire at the young age of 57.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm enjoying retirement, as well as my husband just recently retired as well. We bought an RV a year ago, so
Oh,
now
man.
we're starting to do some traveling
Yes.
and enjoying grandkids. We've got 7 beautiful grandchildren.
This is just such a proof that we don't need Hollywood Marvel movies to have a hero. We have local heroes right here in our backyard. And that's going to wrap up this month's Hometown Veterans Honoring Our Heroes. Again, Beverly, thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Melissa.
7 at 4 will be right back after the break.
Hometown Veterans Honoring Our Heroes is sponsored by River Birch Wealth Management.